think about what I'm saying. Okay. Shut up. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Don't laugh at me. Stop.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Valerie. I am one of your hosts of Scream Sister, your podcast dedicated to spooky movies and spooky books. I'm joined by my sister,
Veronica. I'm the sidekick. I'm the cute sidekick.
This is us attempting to get off the ground after multiple restarts because I was thrown into existential crisis about how to start this podcast in terms of like intro. So I think we are settling in. So today we're going to be talking about, we're going to have film discussion. Before that, I just want to make some announcements up top real quick, guys. So Veronica and I are going to be at the Texas Haunters Convention this summer. We're very excited. I'm super pumped. This is a Halloween lovers 2-day celebration, if you will, where you can bring your family, you can come in costume and take in the work of haunters and vendors from around the state, maybe even outside of the state, but I'm definitely around the state, who are doing Halloween at that next level of greatness. Very pumped for that. It's going to be July 13th and 14th in Mesquite, Texas, and tickets are on sale now. And the reason we're bringing this up to you guys again, we talked about it last episode, but we're mentioning it again because now we have a promo code. So when you go to TexasHauntersConvention.com, you can click on to purchase your tickets. Be sure to use Sister24 at checkout so that you can get a little bit of a discount on your tickets. So,
Do we get free food as vendors?
I doubt it. I'm not expecting that. There will be vendors with food there. There will be like food trucks there. But, like I said, you are encouraged to come in costume. There's cosplayers there who I think come in very elaborate costumes, but kids are encouraged to come in costume. And the folks who put on this convention notified us that we are going to be carrying on with a tradition they started last year where the kids in costume can kind of go around from vendor to vendor kind of trick-or-treating. So they encouraged us as exhibitors to have a bag of candy ready at our tables so that we can pass that out. And, I was just like, message received. I'm on it. We're doing it. So,
I'm assuming you're going to be expecting us to dress in costume as well?
We don't have to. But, wear your Halloween,
because I need to start thinking about it.
Finest. Whether you come in costume or you just come looking your most wicked, whatever you want to do. Be comfortable. It's long days, long 2 days. So, I wouldn't use now to break out the
That's what free food would make it better. Just saying.
You can munch on our bags of candy at the table. But to that point, guys, we will have stuff that we'll be selling, little items that we'll have for sale for you guys. We will also be trying to get kind of on the ground interviews, if you will, from people who are there at the convention, talking about what they love about coming to it every year, what exhibitors they're excited to see, what they love about Halloween, what their favorite scary movies are. So if you are in the area or will be in the area, please come see us at the Texas Haunters Convention. Other than that, Ron, the only thing I wanted to say, we say this at the end of the show, guys, but it's worth bringing up here too. The Scream Sisterhood is growing, and that's so awesome to get to witness. We have folks that are tuning in and listening, and that continues to blow our brains. But we do want to remind you, do us a huge favor, spread the word, share the love with friends and family, give us a rate and review. It truly does help people find the show, and it helps us continue to grow our little community of weirdos here.
Even if you don't like us, tell people to watch us or listen to us.
Exactly. If you don't like us, lie. Just tell people that you do. All right. Well, how are things going with you, Ron?
Doing good. As you know, I've been working this past month on my group fitness certification, which you will be helping me with next weekend.
Yeah. So Veronica,
I had to twist your arm to do it practically. I ask so little, Valerie. I ask so little.
This is a huge ask.
No, it's not.
A very big ask. Veronica is basically, so she's going through like a fitness certification, which is really cool. But what it entails is she sent me like a video, which I haven't looked at. Full disclosure, I haven't even looked at it yet. It just has not been on my radar. I will do that. I will do that this week. I have a week to learn the choreo
It's
guys.
easy.
But basically it's like she's going to be teaching me a routine, and she's going to record me learning this routine alongside her as she instructs me. I mean, imagine that. Imagine being in an exercise video if you can. That's my worst nightmare.
But I'm the one being graded. You're just there to be the pretend student.
I mean, do you remember? I'll have to find it. Surely you guys have seen it if you've been on the internet in like the last 5 to 10 years. But that video of that poor woman, bless her heart, in a workout class, just completely doing everything off count from the rest of the class.
No, Valerie.
That's gonna be me.
Valerie Larissa. You come from a dance background. You know.
Not anymore.
You know musicality. You can pick up choreography. And it's not even choreography. It's an exercise, routine. It's not like dancing.
Because
you can do it. I have full faith in you.
I don't know, dude, because I have done dance workouts in my own home, like trying to follow a video off of YouTube or whatever. And like halfway through, I inevitably just give up and just start doing my own thing in the video. I'm like, whatever, it's still cardio. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, so today, Ron, you want to take us into the film we're going to be discussing?
Yes, we've been watching movies. Just as a disclaimer, we will be discussing this movie in depth. There will be spoilers, so if you have not watched it yet, you might want to hit the pause button, go check it out, and come back and join us. If not, don't say we didn't warn you. So this time around, we watched a movie from Mexico, filmed in Mexico, called Tigers Are Not Afraid. It came out in 2017, directed by Issa López, which you have heard Valerie stan about here quite frequently recently, because she was the director who did the most recent season of, what is it? The True Detective.
Yeah.
So she directed this movie, and I couldn't really find an official tagline of it, but basically it is a haunting horror fairy tale set against the backdrop of Mexico's devastating drug wars. It follows a group of orphan children armed with 3 magical wishes, running from the ghosts that haunt them and the cartel that murdered their parents. Of course, I already said who the director is, Issa López. It stars actually has a very pretty small cast of main characters for a movie, but stars Paula Lara, Juan Ramón López, Neri Arredondo, Hansel Casillas, Rodrigo Cortés, Yanis Guerrero, and Tenoch Huerta.
Yes, who is from Wakanda Forever.
I knew he looked familiar. I could not place it. And I knew the name sounded familiar, and I just didn't bother to go look it up on IMDb, but I knew he looked familiar.
Yeah, Namor.
Yeah, and 5 of those 7 cast are children, so...
Yeah, I was trying to think. Watched. Like, there were no other adults in the movie but for... Yeah.
Just briefly other people, but nobody that was like a main part of the plot. But yeah, so that's the movie we watched. I had never heard of this movie until you brought it up. And actually, interesting fact, Issa López, before this movie, she was pretty well known in Mexico for comedies.
Oh, really?
So this was kind of her first foray into... She grew up liking, the genre horror films. In fact, I think she's quoted somewhere that I saw that says she likes, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but she likes movies that start bleak, get bleaker, and end in hell. So... So
that's so funny.
So what were your initial impressions?
Well, let me just say, I mean, obviously,
I know you love her.
I do love her, and I was so excited for this movie. And I mean, predictably, I loved it. I watched it. When did I watch it? I watched it earlier this week. I was just tears raining down my face at the end. It was just like Alex came out of his office and he's just like, "How's it going? He goes, what did he say? He's like, "This movie's really loud." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you're being really loud," like talking to the screen. But yeah, I loved it. I cried. It was beautiful. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was just hauntingly gorgeous. And yeah, we can get to like the particulars that I thought were so striking about this film. But what did you think of it? How did you like it? This was your first taste of López.
Yeah, and I did not know what to expect. I hadn't even looked up any plot summaries, so I hadn't watched a trailer for it. So I really went in zero, knew nothing about it, had no expectations whatsoever. And I really, really loved it as well. I will say I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know that I personally would consider it horror per se, in the sense that, it didn't really have the jump scares and the traditional horror tropes, but it was still a beautiful movie. I thought it's been described over and over as kind of being a dark fairy tale, and I very
Mm-hmm.
much think it had that quality, similar to The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth. I think both of those movies, Pan's Labyrinth specifically in particular, had a more like, there was more of an elegance to it, to that
Mm-hmm.
beauty. This movie, I wouldn't say it was elegant, but it was still beautiful. It just was more gritty and had more of an urban feel.
Mm-hmm.
But just, I don't even know that I would classify that as a bittersweet ending. It was heartbreaking, and I cried too. I went out into the living room because I was watching it by myself. My husband was asleep on the couch, and I sat down next to him, just sniffling, waiting for him to wake up and see my distress.
You're such a weirdo. You're like, I'm just going to sit here and be morose and wait for him to sense my being in the room.
Sense my distress. But yes, I just really liked it all. One of the things I love in books, in movies, whatever the medium is I love that concept of a found family. And so that kind of had that with this little group of orphans, and
it was like a little Mary. It was like the Lost Boys, Peter Pan and the Lost Boys.
It just broke my heart. Yeah.
I did read about how like this was, like you said, shot primarily all in Mexico. It was specifically, there's a municipality in Mexico City called Azcapotzalco, and it was also shot in the Colonia Guerrero neighborhood primarily. So I thought that was kind of cool. I think like one of the articles that we will link for you guys mentioned that nearly all components of the artisanal production were done in Mexico, so including visual effects. So that was really cool, and something that Lopez says she's really proud of. To your point, I agree. Like, just dark fairy tale is how I would describe it. I know that when she was shopping this movie around to like various festival circuits, one of the other articles I looked at mentioned that like all of the I would call them prestige film festivals. All of the prestige film festivals turned it down.
Like your Sundance, your
but like ultimately Fantastic Fest is the festival that picked it up, which I've been to Fantastic Fest before, and so I thought that was pretty cool that they took a chance.
Well, where did you go?
Well, I went to register voters.
Oh, where is it? Where do they have it?
So, well, I mean, the Fantastic Fest stuff that I went to was here in Austin at one of the Alamo Drafthouse theaters. It was like a day of screenings, and so people were coming to that. Yeah, I went for the purposes of registering voters.
Well, thank goodness for them, because who knows if this movie ever would have found any traction. And now it has, fans, the likes of Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, which is so cool. I mean, the way that that's the thing that she commented on, when it found life at Fantastic Fest, it really was embraced by the little horror community that comes out of those festivals and turns out at those festivals. So that's really cool to see, is just how supportive the horror community was for this little movie, which really does sort of set her on a course for eventually taking on Night Country. And friends of the show will know that she just recently got, what am I trying to say? She's going to be back for True Detective season 5. And I think she's also got some other projects in the work that were part of that deal for HBO or for Max. So that's pretty cool. I mean, if not for this little movie, kind of like set the stage for all that would come after it.
And what a great first movie in a different genre from what she had been apparently known for before. Like I said, it was more comedic movies, and
I can't even imagine that. She just doesn't read as like comedic. Well, she is funny, I suppose, but like not.
I don't know. I haven't seen. I don't know what she looks like.
I've listened to so many interviews of her over the True Detective stuff, and so one of the things that, before we like go into any bits of this movie, one of the things she said in the interview, which I kind of find funny, paired with what you said, she mentioned about how she likes things that go dark and then go darker and then just end in hell. One of the things she said in an interview for Night Country is that what she has learned about herself is that she will start her writing process, her storytelling process, fully free of any attachment to characters. So she's like, in other words, what I'm trying to say is like, she is not afraid to have them meet some untimely tragedy, right? She's not afraid to go
clearly, and I have words for her about that.
She's not afraid
Miss Issa López.
She's not afraid to go super dark, and yet what she has learned about herself is the more she gets into these characters and the storytelling, the deeper she gets into the story, the more she doesn't have the heart to go full hopeless. Like she's that's what she's learned about herself through Night Country, is that she is incapable of being completely without hope. And
Oh, thank
so
God. Because you saw in one of those articles that she actually had originally written a darker ending than what happens in this movie.
oh no, I don't think I missed that. Tell me, how did she envision it going?
She didn't really go into a lot of specifics. It was just it was going to entail, like, when at the end, when Estrella comes out after having accomplished what she accomplishes at the end of this movie, we find out that the rest of the boys have all joined gangs.
Aw.
So you know what, at least they'd be, some of them hopefully still breathing.
Criminals, but alive.
Yeah. But yeah, so she had envisioned a darker ending, but then, kind of like you said, she realized that she wanted to end with a little bit of light to show that there are things you can still do. There are things that you can still do to try to help, to try to change things. But it was still a sad ending, and I still cried. This movie makes a lot of use of magical realism, which is not uncommon in Latin American, literature. Have you experienced magical realism in either books or movies that you've watched before? Was it kind of shocking to you to see? Because the first instance we see of that in this movie, because it starts off, we see Shine.
Shiny, yeah.
Shine kind of at night painting his tiger graffiti.
His little tigers.
And Estrella's in school in the daytime, kind of writing a fairy tale about tigers. And then shooting happens. They kind of cancel school. Estrella, on her way home, sees a dead body that's covered on the sidewalk, bleeding, a victim of this violence. And it's just really sad that there's kids just playing in the street, just dead bodies in sight. And it's just sad that you can assume that they're that desensitized to seeing this, that they're still playing. But Estrella turns the corner, she's walking home, and then the blood from that victim starts a trail, and it's following her home. So that's kind of the first inkling that we get that this isn't just going to be a movie based 100% in the real plane. There's going to be these are magical realism elements. So have you come across this kind of thing before?
Like in films especially. I don't know if I've I guess it's not fair to say I haven't come across it too much in the literature we've read. I have.
Were you expecting it? Were you expecting it?
I was expecting it because, unlike you, I do watch trailers.
Well, see, I did watch the trailer right before we started this podcast. Okay. That almost made me start crying again, and I'm glad I didn't watch it because, see, I think trailers spoil too much nowadays. They're too long. I have issues with trailers, people. They're too long. They give away too many plot elements, like the shot of the tiger at the end. That was a great thing to see if you didn't know it was coming.
Sure, so I guess. I guess, like, I'm with you in that trailers are too long and give away too much. I guess what I like are teasers, and teasers are shorter, and there's usually not a whole lot of context that you're given for what you're seeing. It's just visuals, and it's setting a tone, a very important tone, in my opinion. So I like a good teaser. And so I won't shy away from those. But I will watch the first teaser for a movie, and then that's it. I'm done. Because inevitably the second teaser that they release, or the full-length trailer that they release, is always going to be, as Veronica says, it's going to be too much. And I don't want to know too much. So I will stop at the first teaser just to get vibes. And then from there, yeah. I will say one thing that I noted about that particular scene in the beginning, where she's in her class, they're doing their assignment, and suddenly there's gunfire that breaks out. And you get the vibe immediately that this is like a regular facet of life for these children. And some American eyes might look at that and have perceptions about, whatever state of living in Mexico or whatever. But honestly, what popped into my head watching that scene was, this could be a U.S. classroom. Like, I mean, like the reality of gun violence in schools or school adjacent is prevalent in other places, obviously, including here. So did you like the fantasy elements or magical realism elements of the movie?
I did, but I read a lot in the fantasy genre, and so those kind of, that's home to me. That doesn't bother me. And when you're dealing with, obviously this is a horror podcast, so we watch horror movies. There's always, unless it's just like a straight up serial killer kind of movie, there's always usually some sort of fantastical element to it. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. And then, of course, it follows her home and it saturates her mother's dress. So immediately, either mom's already dead or she's going to die at some point
Oh, I
in
didn't
this
even put that
movie.
together. You're
Yeah.
right. I didn't even think about that. It didn't occur to me that that was like foreshadowing that her mother is already dead and she doesn't
Hmm.
know. Because see, what happens, guys, is after the gunfire, school is canceled for the day at least, and so she ends up going back home. Like Veronica said, you get that trail of blood that is now following Estrella. She gets back to her house. Her mom's not there. We don't know why. We presume she's just out. And so at the same time that Estrella is home in the middle of the day, she sees across the window, across the way, across the alley, Shine, who is out kind of scavenging for food, because what we sort of established very soon after is that there's basically this band of children bonded together through the fact that they've all been orphaned
By this violence,
by this cartel violence, this drug violence in their communities. So like I said, it's kind of like this Peter Pan Lost Boys situation where it's this group of little boys, no caretaker. They have to fend for themselves.
So right away, like I don't think we were even like 5 minutes into the movie before we realized we were dealing, again, for people like me who didn't even read the taglines or anything. It's like, okay, it's a group of homeless orphans living on the street. So already tugging at the heartstrings
And they're
from the
so
get-go.
they're so
I
precious.
know, they're so cute. What really got me as the movie is going, that just all this trauma that these children have experienced. They've lost their parents. They're homeless.
Mhm.
They don't have anyone looking after them. No one making sure they're eating. They're probably not even in school. They're just left to their own devices. And this violence is still going on around them. It's like a part of their everyday existence, which must just be so exhausting in and of itself. And yet still they have these little moments where they still play and they're still
Mhm.
just children, and they just still find this time to be children. Even though like Shina already seems like old beyond his years. He's
Yes.
just,
Yeah,
he's kind of the leader of this little pack of 5 boys. And
And the little one's name is Moro. Is that right?
Moro.
Moro. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah.
He's so cute. The kids kind of run afoul of the local cartel gang that's in their area. What are they called? The Huascas?
Yeah, I think
The
so.
Huascas?
They're brothers. It's a gang of like brothers.
Because
And Tino Huerta, he what's his name? I don't remember his name is in the movie. It's just El Chino is his nickname.
well,
The,
he's El Chino, but he's
uh-huh.
also the politician that's running
Right.
for office, Servando Esperanza,
Okay.
which is
Yeah. See,
kind of an interesting name.
I didn't even remember his his full name
Yeah.
in the movie. I just know he's El Chino. And so yeah. So you have this story of like drug cartel violence mixed with like corrupt politics.
So these children kind of run afoul of this gang. Shine, early on in the movie, one of the cartel soldier dudes, he's drunk, he's in an alley, and Shine takes his gun and his cell phone without
Mhm.
the cartel dude knowing. Kako, is that his name? I don't even remember. But he
It doesn't
steals
matter.
steals his cell phone and his gun. And then, of course, I don't really know how the gang figures out that this particular group of children has his phone, and he wants it back. And later we come to find out that he's got some pretty incriminating video of El Chino, who is the
Mhm.
politician running for office, actually murdering somebody on video.
Yeah.
So that's why Gakko wants the phone back. That's why El Chino wants the phone back. And so they kind of spend the movie kind of chasing down these poor kids, and these kids trying to stay one step ahead of them and stay
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And like at one point the men do find their little encampment, and before all of them can get away, one of the gang brothers, Kako, if that's his name, snatches up Moro and takes him. And so yeah, that kind of leads us into Estrella has now been kind of dared by the boys to like, you want to stay with us, you want to stick with us, then you've got to go in there and get him back. They kind of look at her as being like, see what happens when we bring a girl into the encampment. Look at what has happened now. Go get him back. And so she's got to go in there. This is where we get a little bit more magical realism come in, because she has to go in there and she's been told she needs to shoot the guy to get Moro back. And she makes a wish. It's part of the little fairy tale. Isn't that the part of the little fairy tale that she was writing at the beginning?
Well, I
Something
don't
about
remember,
like,
but I know in the shootout, the teacher gives her the
oh,
three
that's right.
pieces of
That's right.
chalk, and it's more the teacher attempting to comfort her, like give the child, something to hold on to. So she tells her that the 3 pieces of chalk represent 3 wishes.
So Estrella in that moment makes her first wish that she won't have to shoot him or something.
Actually, her first wish was that her mother would come back.
Ah.
Remember? And then the mother, like you see shadows moving in the back of the apartment, and she starts hearing her mother trying warning her.
That's right. And we do get like shadows. What I think kind of this movie did really well, and we're going to get to this eventually, but like we can go ahead and I can mention it now. What I think this movie did really well for not being this elaborate production in the vein of Pan's Labyrinth or something with a higher budget, presumably. I think this movie incorporated the scary elements very well because you've got shadows alluding to it being her mom or somebody. I think later on when we start to encounter the dead that are following Estrella, I think that was scary and creepy and nice use of probably very practical effects. I don't think that like makeup and bags over tarps over people, like I don't think there was anything CGI'd or high tech involved. So I think very practical effects that to me were used sparingly and effectively. So yeah, she in that moment, she's making a wish that she won't have to kill him or something, that somehow he'll already be dead. He is in fact already dead. And there's a dragon. Isn't there like a dragon that emerges?
It was on the Garco's cell phone cover.
Yes, yeah.
Which
so
I'm not sure what that signified, but
anyway, he is already dead. She flees and ends up in some alley where she sees Moro in a cage along with a couple of other boys. So she frees them all, and so she's like won the day. Like all of the boys are under the impression that she has killed this man, and so she's like a hero. And from there, they now have to be on the run because now these men are going to be looking for them because now one of them has been shot. Where is it that they end up, Veronica?
That abandoned, like, I don't know if it was a mansion or just a big, big building, where they like a koi pond, the fish pond.
Maybe even like
just a big, huge abandoned, derelict, rundown building, but it was like a castle.
To have some elegance and opulence to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is just where you see the kids like playing a little bit, just kind of having a moment to relax, but it doesn't last very long because the gang tracks them there.
Sheena tries to go. Did I say Sheena? Sheena tries to go to Estrella's home to retrieve a photo of her with her mom because she commented that she doesn't have any pictures of her mother. So he tries to go back and get a photo for her. And in doing so, he gets caught by the men who then, this is where we get our first like truly emotional moment in the movie because Sheena and the men go back to China, go back to the abandoned mansion that the kids are holding up in. There's a tussle. The men have guns. At one point, the man is about to shoot China, and Moro, who is in,
he's been like the youngest one.
He's the baby. One. He doesn't speak. Like ever since whatever trauma he witnessed with his own family being killed, it has rendered him mute. So he doesn't speak. And so he shoots at the man and prevents the man from killing Shaina. But in the process, the man turns right around and shoots Moro and kills him. And it was so heartbreaking. Like that moment when Moro gets shot, Shaina cries out. He cries out, no. And it's just so heartbreaking. That actor who plays Shaina is... Excellent. He's just an angel of a little boy. And he did all of these kids were just such great actors in this story. And so
but that was just shocking to me because I don't know why, but I just wasn't expecting any of these children to actually die in this movie.
Yeah. Certainly
especially not like that.
Not the baby. Like I definitely wasn't expecting the baby. After he got freed from the cage, I was like, okay, he's gonna make it. And it was heartbreaking. And all the while during the course of this happening, Estrella is seeing things that allude to her mother, something that's following her.
And she keeps hearing her mother say, bring him to us. Bring him to us. Which she should have listened. Because maybe
at the time she didn't know who he was. Well, bring who to us?
She knows who he's talking about. This is the lesson, kiddos. Listen to your mothers. It doesn't matter if they're dead and bloody and covered in plastic sheeting. Listen to them.
I don't know. And maybe in some like convoluted way Estrella is still somehow believing that her mother is alive or something. Because I think like later on in the film when they finally hand the phone back to El Chino, or what he believes is the phone, doesn't she say something like, "Where is my mother? What have you done with her? Girl, your mother is gone." At this point, the boys are more like, it's devastating because the first of them has died, and they kind of hold Estrella as responsible. At this juncture, have we already seen? I think it's at this juncture, once Mato's dead and the kids have kind of disbanded because everybody's mad at Estrella. I think that's when we really start seeing the dead that are following her, and so we see it's more than one. It's more than just her mother. It's like multiple people that are I guess like the ghosts that are following her. And so, what did you think of that? What did you said that you didn't see this as like horror in the sense that it wasn't like scary or jump scary. That didn't scare you? I thought that those were really scary.
No, because I knew, as obviously I'm sitting outside the events of the movie and I'm watching it, and I have the benefit of. I just didn't think that I knew that the ghosts of the dead were not there to hurt her. They weren't there to hurt the children. They were wanting revenge, and they were trying to get Estrella to give them that revenge. So I never found them. It was kind of, the concept is gross, obviously, but we don't ever really see, again, they were very subtle with it. They don't, it's not like you see decomposing flesh or anything full on. So it's kind of all very subtle. Estrella was scared, as would be natural, but I never felt afraid for her because I knew they weren't there to hurt her.
That's it. Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah. I didn't think about it in terms of that. I was just more scared.
I felt sad for them, actually.
Well, yeah, and especially towards the end when we come to understand fully the extent of El Chino's violence and what he's done. It's just like, it's devastating. But I thought, so, I mean, a lot of these bodies, a lot of these dead are wrapped up in kind of clear tarps, like paint sheets, if you will, paint drop cloths. And so, again, the visual effects are not elaborate by any means, but very effective, very scary. So I mean, I thought that was really nice.
At some point in this movie, like in the last third of the movie or so, because China has kind of kept fiddling with Caco's cell phone, and at some point he finally figures out how to get past the code and get in there, and he's the one who sees the incriminating video that Caco had taken of El Chino, the politician dude, murdering somebody. Well, then he looks closer and he recognizes the bracelet on the person that El Chino is killing as being the same bracelet that Estrella's mother is wearing in the photo that he took from their apartment. So he knows, and he keeps trying to find a way to tell Estrella that the video that they all saw was actually her mother being killed. Right after they've made the handoff, they've pretended to return the phone to El Chino. El Chino has let them go because I guess he figures no one's going to believe a bunch of homeless orphans anyway. And then we learned that China switched phones. He didn't give him the actual phone with the evidence on it. And he's just about to tell Estrella that that was her mother and that her mother is dead when all of a sudden El Chino shoots China in the head. Where did he shoot him?
It doesn't matter. Like in the face.
It doesn't matter.
China has these scars. Yeah, China has these scars on his face from the house fire. Because that's how his mother was killed, is like they set the house on fire, and so like they weren't able to all get out in time, and so he's got these scars. And so yeah, El Chino shoots him in the face, and it happens like you don't see it. And this is because I watched the movie twice, as I do, because I watched it the first time and then I watched it the second time and I take notes. So I watched it the first time and I thought that I had just looked down at the wrong time and missed it, because I looked back up and her face has blood splattered on it. And then you see him standing there bleeding, and then he falls over and you realize he's been shot. And so I thought, holy crap, I that happened so fast. But then when I was watching it again, you don't see it. Like that is what you see. You hear a sound, you hear the gunshot, you see her face.
You also see that trail of blood hit China's shoes.
That's right. The trail of blood follows them and she sees it reach China right before it happens. So she's looking down at the blood and she doesn't see the gunshot. So we don't see it either as the audience. And then, yeah, he falls over. And I was just like,
I was just like, what?
I was devastated. I was just like, holy crap. That's
She killed 2 children. This is why I have issues. It's not, I don't have words with you,
I
but
thought you were like Estrella killed 2 children.
no.
So then Estrella's on the run and El Chino's following her, trying to chase her down, calling her all kinds of names like over and over. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is
She's a
just a small
child.
child. But anyway, at some point, so one of the other magical realism elements is that the little stuffed tiger that Moro used to always hold walking around, this dirty little stuffed tiger, it has now kind of like animated. It's like this little purring kitten, and I was just like, this is so cute. I want one. It's guiding her to a hiding spot. It's like this little stuffed animal that's guiding her to like a laundry chute or something,
Some kind of storeroom, I
or
don't know.
vent or something. So she climbs into this vent.
Which clearly has an odor because she's practically gagging.
She's gagging,
Now,
and so
I thought because didn't the bear also give her like a lighter? I'm thinking maybe it's some kind of like natural gas. She's gonna, throw the lighter in there and blow the whole building up. No.
So there's a lovely effect.
What did she find, Valerie? Tell us what she found.
Well, I want to set it up because there's this lovely effect here that is played really well. So in this scene, she's in the dark, she's gagging. We hear her fidget for the lighter. It flickers, and in that instant of the light flickering, she doesn't see it, but there is a body. There is a dead body right there staring at her, and it just happens for a second, but effectively done, scary as crap. And then once she gets the lighter going and actually establishes light in the room, that's when she sees just a pile of the dead.
Wall to wall.
Just bodies wrapped up in plastic, left there to rot, that he and his gang have killed, have disappeared and killed. Yeah, people all over the community have been disappearing, have been abducted, and have been murdered here. And this is another heartbreaking moment where the body of her mother starts to move and is trying to pull the plastic off her face so that she can I'm going to start crying.
I started crying too.
So that she can see her baby, and she like holds out her arm to touch her baby. And
the little bracelet of birds.
Yeah, she had said to Estrella, because Estrella loved the bracelet and was wanting to get it someday. And she said, oh, you'll get it from me when you're older, when I'm long gone. And so in that moment, she's holding her daughter's hand, and the bracelet of little birds animates and flies off of her wrist and flies onto her baby girl's wrist. There's just so much emotion coming off of this dead body. She can't talk, but she's, you can tell that they're crying. Her little girl's crying, she's crying, and you're sobbing watching this. And so then at that point, El Chino is still hollering, but we realize like what her mother has been wanting her to do. When she said, bring him to us, this is what she meant. Bring that man here.
I knew it.
Okay. And so then like he's calling the phone, right? Because the whole time this phone isn't on silent. I'm like, get this phone on silent, please. So every time he calls, he can hear the ringtone, and he stumbles into the room and he's like, ha, I found you, you little whatever. And at that moment, she sneaks out when he's not looking and shuts him in the room, and she turns, and who does she see, Veronica?
Shine.
She sees the ghost of Shine. Yeah, you take it from here, because obviously I've already started crying on the podcast. So,
well, before she sees Shine, she closes the door, and you can hear El Chino start screaming on the other side, which I wanted to see that. I feel deprived of watching him get his comeuppance, but you hear him screaming, so all the bodies of his victims, they're taking their pound of flesh. Estrella turns around, and Shine is standing there. Well, now I'm gonna cry.
Issa López.
I gotta take a breath.
Okay.
They say goodbye to each other. She gives him the lighter. And does he turn and go back into that same room? That's what I wasn't sure of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't see him. He's a ghost. So like we don't see it. But yeah, he takes the lighter. He
goes in the room. And then you see the outline of the door kind of light up. So you assume that he has set the whole thing on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever is left of Chino in there, he's going to burn it all. And then Issa turns, and she sees an actual tiger. Again,
real tiger.
Magical realism again, but like a live tiger, not the animated stuffed animal tiger laying there. And the tiger doesn't bother her. and she kind of smiles, and then she goes to leave the building. She opens the door. It's this very just serene, peaceful like field that she walks out into. I thought that was just a beautiful ending, the tiger symbolizing that. And Shina had said this at some point in the
Yeah,
movie.
so there's a voiceover
when you've-
happening.
yeah,
while
when you've
while
been
we see the
through-
tiger.
when you've been through the worst that could happen, you've been through all the bad stuff, and you come out on the other side. You can face anything.
Basically, this is an earlier conversation that he's having with Estrella when I don't know, he's telling her the story of the tiger, or like the story of this tiger that escaped its cage and was like out on the loose. And she was saying he's must be out there scared. He's all alone. He has no one. And in that moment, you're kind of thinking like the tiger is like a metaphor for Shina. And he says no because, and this is the voiceover that we hear again at the end. He's saying no because he's been through all of the bad stuff. He's the king of his own kingdom now, and tigers are strong. Tigers are not afraid. And then we also hear the voiceover of her, which played out at the beginning of the movie when she's writing her little fairy tale in school, because we have to remember we are warriors, we are princes, we're fighters, basically, is what all that amounts to. So yeah, I thought it was really beautiful.
The tiger symbolized her,
and it ends like that. It ends with her opening up and going out into that field, which I thought, Veronica, if like very much kind of reminiscent of the ending of El Espinazo del Diablo, the Devil's Backbone.
But at least in that was actually happening. Obviously, here she's not actually walking out into this pastoral field, but I think it symbolized, just like the tiger, her seeing it, she realizes that she has this inner strength that she now knows she has, that she did not realize how strong she could be. But if she could make it through all of this crap, then even if there's more crap in the future for her to face, she knows she can face it. To me, that's what that ending scene with her walking into that serene pastoral field is. Doesn't mean life's going to be easy, because she's still a homeless orphan. So
with nowhere to go,
life is still not going to be easy. But she at least has the peace of, or I don't think it represents peace so much. It just represents at that moment an inner tranquility that comes from when you know you're strong. You know, whatever happens, you can face it and you can get through it and you can come out on the other side.
So yeah, just beautiful movie.
I know.
So one of the things that I read about that I wanted to make sure to bring up in Entertainment Weekly article that I think we've linked for you guys, Issa López said, I was researching a movie that fell apart about the origins of the drug cartels during World War II. And I talked to a bunch of journalists and specialists in politics, etc. Inevitably or invariably, the interviews would veer into the situation currently in Mexico. And in one of those, someone said, of course, there's the problem with the children. And that stopped me in my tracks because I realized I'd never given it any thought, which is embarrassing. Nobody is talking about these kids. And like anywhere in the world, it affects the children. It displaces them. It harms them. It leaves them on their own. And nobody's telling their stories. So that stuck with me. And then somewhere else, I read about parts of towns that have become ghost towns due to this, this ongoing kind of violence. And so she was like, this was my opportunity to kind of take that and run with it.
We actually don't know, we don't really know what's going to become of Estrella. We don't know what happens to the last two surviving little boys of Shina's gang.
Yeah.
Pop and Tuxie. I don't really even know what their names are. I don't know who was who, but so it leaves those kind of realistic unanswered questions of the ending of the movie it removes the most immediate threat from their lives because Chino's dead, so there's no one coming after them anymore, but they're still in this uncertain situation where they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. They don't know where they're going to lay their head down that night. So yeah, there's still those unanswered questions of what's going to become of these kids.
Yeah. What is that?
So heartbreaking.
Wait,
I want to watch some happy movies, damn it.
Well, I tried to find us happy, and instead I found us ladies without their tops on.
I need some happy movies.
I found us some booby movies. But do you happen to have that quote in front of you where she talks about the support that she got from on this movie from Del Toro and Stephen King? And
I did read in there that Guillermo del Toro has actually asked her to work with him on something in this. So they were supposedly working on like a werewolf Western movie, which sounds totally cool. I don't know whatever happened to that. the
Ooh.
strike that happened may have kind of derailed that or severely delayed it, but that sounds cool.
Well, one of the things I read about Del Toro is like that is a man who has many visions and many brilliant ideas going on in his mind at all times. And so getting him to sort of rein in his horses and focus is sometimes a challenge. But yes, obviously a brilliant genius. But yeah, that would be so cool because that's sort of while you're looking for that, I will just say that's sort of what struck me as so cool about this movie. She kind of does feel like female Guillermo del Toro, or if you will. But I mean, strong in her own right. She is her own person. And I really, having now followed her on Night Country, having now seen this movie, she's one of my faves. She's one of my faves. I have a crush.
The quote is in the article from Entertainment Weekly that we're going to be linked in the show notes. The interviewer was asking her, which is kind of a dumb question, because like, how does it feel that, Stephen King, Guillermo del Toro, Neil Gaiman have all loved this movie? So she says, really, these are the three guys that shaped the dark part of me, no doubt. There's so much of King. There's a lot of It, the movie. There's a lot of The Body, which is what inspired Stand By Me, Guillermo del Toro. It's not even worth going into that. There's so much of The Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth in the movie, which you pointed out, Valerie. And Neil Gaiman with Sandman. So the three of them, and then getting them to watch it, a movie that nobody wanted to watch. And not only that, but becoming champions of it and vocal. There's no way to describe how it feels that the heroes that inspired you become your friends and allies.
Yeah. That is really cool. And, like in terms of her referencing Stand By Me? Stand By Me?
Stand By Me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you can see elements of that in this too, sort of just.
This group of boys that are kind of banding together and helping each other through.
Yeah. Very cool. It's a great movie, guys. It's like
highly recommend.
Highly recommend it. I didn't rent it. I debated. I was like, I should buy it because I know I'm going to want to buy it. I should just buy it, but I didn't. I rent it, and sure enough, immediately after finishing it, I was like, damn it, I should have bought it. But I am. It's going on my list. Movies I want to buy. This one, The Devil's Backbone. I'm going to buy these movies. So
this would definitely be in the top tier of the movies that we've watched.
If this was y'all's first taste of this director, as it was Veronica's, let this be something to entice you, and then go watch Night Country. Prepare yourself for something completely different, but equally beautiful, equally beautifully done. I'm excited to continue to follow this woman and all of the wonderful things she will be doing in the future. Our next episode, March 18th, we're going to be discussing The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. Ron, did you feel there was anything you wanted to share about your return down X-Files lane? You've been watching those episodes. Have any favorites jumped out at you?
Well, because I don't know, there's this channel out there called Comet TV, which I knew of, but I'd forgotten about it. And I came across it late one night because I've been having trouble sleeping. They were showing old X-Files episodes. I don't think they're in any kind of order. But I did just discover that Amazon Prime actually has, I think, pretty much all the seasons of the X-Files. So I'm going to go back and start watching from the beginning. It's actually, for people that like horror, that a lot of the episodes do have a lot of creepy vibes, kind of gross things. I'm looking at you, Mr. Fluke. Those of you that know.
I don't know.
So
I'm not one of the ones who knows.
Mr. Fluke man. So yeah, there's just like a lot of creepy things going on in the X-Files. And then they just had like some silly ones that were just for fun, like the one that I was texting you about the other day. Like they did a whole episode in the vein of as if it was an episode of Cops. You know, that old show.
Yeah.
What was his theme song? Bad boys, bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boy. So the whole episode was shot just like that, like as if they're following, like it was like live crew following. And then there was an episode that was kind of all shot in black and white, featured Cher.
That's right. I remember that one. Have there been, because my favorite, granted, when the X-Files came out, I was still fairly young, but you were way into it back in its heyday. I do remember seeing episodes of it, and the ones that were always my favorite were the episodes that incorporated kind of maybe like a paranormal element or some sort of
that was pretty much all of them.
Spooky something. Well, I mean, there were some that stood out to me more than others, I guess, but I'm kind of going blank on what some of those were. I didn't know if there were any that you'd come across, specific episodes you wanted to recommend.
You have to watch them in order, Valerie. I will not I
Okay.
will not tolerate you just picking and choosing and jumping in there wherever. You got to watch them in order. See, this is where I wish we lived in the same city, because I would just go over there. Like, we'd have a once a week where we'd have like X-Files. We'd watch at least one episode, and I'd take you through all the seasons.
I think so. Speaking of going in order, we introduced our kids to Indiana Jones maybe like a couple years ago, and we decided that we were going to go because it was just like, well, I don't think that they can handle Temple of Doom. There's just a lot going on in that movie that might be too much for them at their tender age. And what I think the first one, was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in that one, I for some reason I was like, let's go with that one. And Alex was like, well, don't their faces melt off at the end of that? And I was like, okay. So then let's go Last Crusade, because Last Crusade, honestly, like one of my favorites of the three, and it has Sean Connery. Like, it's just brilliant. And so we had them watch that. And I remember just pissing off so many people on social media that were just like, you showed it out of order.
I know. I might have to come take custody of my nephews, because this upbringing is unholy.
But then we forgot the terror of the Last Crusade when the dude grabs the wrong cup and you kind of just sort of see him die in real time. And like,
I think the boys can tolerate.
I don't
more
know,
than
man.
You think.
No,
like,
this
my
was
whole
like,
generation grew up. What you're Generation 2, child, Gen X.
I'm not
We
Gen
saw
X.
it all, aren't you?
No, we've discussed this. I'm an elder millennial.
That explains a lot.
I'm sure they could maybe handle it now. I still don't think they could handle Temple of Doom. I don't think they could handle someone pulling someone's heart out of their chest. I just don't know that one is ever ready for that. But I think that's it, guys. That's going to wrap us up. So get your book read. So
no more tearjerkers for a while, please. I don't like crying.
Here's the thing about horror. It's either gonna rip your heart out, or it's going to scar you emotionally, you get the lucky instances of your Bruce Banner gonna make you laugh till you pee your pants. I don't know, and those are hard to find.
Bruce Banner, what
is it? Bruce Banner? Bruce, what's his face?
The Hulk?
No,
Bruce Banner's the Hulk.
Bruce, what's his face? Bruce.
I don't know. What are you talking about? I was like, Bruce Banner. What the hell does Bruce Banner have to do with me?
God, why am I the worst? Bruce with the. Bruce. You are no help at this at all.
Bruce?
Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell.
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Thank you.
I was like, what does the Hulk have to do with... Hulk is not funny.
Okay, Bruce Campbell. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I clearly did not.
Okay.
That's how we know that appeared.
Anyway, if anybody has recommendations for fun horror comedies, obviously Veronica is screaming for that. So someone please throw her a cookie so we can watch something light.
Throw me a cookie. Cried watching the movie, cried on this damn podcast. I'm done.
That's more emoting than Veronica typically does inside of. All right. Okay. Well, we will see you all back here on March 18th.
Bye.
Scream Sister is a Nest production hosted by me, Valerie, and Veronica. Editing by me. Music by Omar Chakor. Production support for this episode provided by Lorenzo Villarreal and Alex Street. Listen to new episodes of Scream Sister every other Monday, and don't forget to give us a rate and review. It is the best way to help us grow.